Namaste, Jai Bharat. In spite of all the drawbacks of a democracy, sometimes the drawbacks are miserably bad. So, in spite of all the drawbacks of democracy, we would still opt and wish for democracy only in capital letters. We accept democracy with all its built-in drawbacks because that's the best available system on comparison with any other governance. This is of course undisputed and it's demonstrated. So democracy has got a lot of funny things. They say there are this opposition, and in the entire world there's hardly any opposition which would be meaningful opposition. Very few cases you will find the oppositions are very cooperative. Very few cases you come across oppositions working with national interest. Many places, and that's most often, the opposition simply tries to oppose whatever the ruling does. Ruling may not be perfect, opposition may not be incorrect, this is not there. But then many times they simply oppose just because many misunderstand that the job of opposition is simply to oppose no matter what the governance or the people in rule say, do, whatever. So in Bharat, we have opposition. And there are times when we have very constructive opposition, and there are times when we have very funny opposition. So there are oppositions to everything in democracy, that's the usual thing. And before anything, the opposition started telling that my Prime Minister was not invited for the G7 in Canada. He of course is a great man. He keeps quiet. He doesn't reply to all utterings of no matter who. Even if someone says so many things, he just keeps quiet. He even doesn't bother to even deal with such things with a smile. Times when he gives a smile, and that smile becomes most apt to reply many times. So there are stories that he is not invited. We don't know whether he was to be invited or not. But those things are within the people. Canada, he was invited. Subsequently, then he went for G7. And without President Trump, without the US, G7 is not really G7. So he has to come, and he came. But then suddenly, he picked up differences with someone. In some talks, maybe let's not go into the details because we may not know what really must happen. So he just walked away. He went back to US, and there was a scheduled meeting between President Trump and my Prime Minister. And before that, he left, and he even did not talk to my Prime Minister. But after reaching US, there must have been second thought of people must have advised him, hey, you did not talk to him. He just rushed and came back. Then he made a phone call, trying to talk to my Prime Minister, and they did talk for some 35 minutes plus. This is what the report says. I haven't heard it, you haven't heard it. We only hear reports that others, those who knew it, saying. And in that, few things very clearly was told. First thing, he said, you come to. President Trump told my Prime Minister that you have come to Canada, why don't you come to US and let's have a meeting and go. Then he said, no, my program is scheduled and it will disturb my schedule, so some other time. On the other hand, when you are free, please come to Bharat. And he accepted the invitation. My Prime Minister did not refuse his invitation to US. There is no need for him to refuse. But since his schedule is tight, he very clearly told he is one person who speaks direct. He speaks directly and is very transparent. You should appreciate him. The person is very transparent. He says what he thinks and he does what he says. Very clear about it. There is no doubt. He doesn't say one thing and do another thing. And he doesn't speak to please anyone. He goes with the truth, by the truth, not like our Dwaragatish Bhagavan Sri Krishna direct. Where he has to speak, he speaks. Where he has to be silent, he keeps quiet. He doesn't speak. Anyway, that's a different thing. So this thing happened, and now those 35 minutes plus talks, there are narratives that what they have talked, discussed. First of all, the Bharat-Pakistan conflict. Actually, Pakistan has called Bharat at the instance of President Trump or not, I do not know. But the narrative available is that Pakistan has requested their army boss, army concerned person, requested our army concerned person for a ceasefire. The reasons behind the whole world knows. And then we gave, and then suddenly President Trump comes and says, it's because of me this thing happened. He wants to take credit. That was categorically told that you had no role in it. It's between us. You had no role in it. We don't listen to people unnecessarily. When you speak reasons, of course, that's a different thing. But we don't take dictations. You can't ask us to do this and do that. We will do. We don't do mistakes, fine. But we do according to our understanding and our interests. So just because you say we are not going to gym, that's what Pakistan does, because you pay them money for that. They are also not doing it willingly, but they do it for money. They'll do for money, they'll do anything. So there's nothing unusual with Pakistan. So that credit claim was not appropriate, that he must have told. Then one thing. Another thing is that we would not treat in future a terror activity as an isolated phenomenon. We would be treating any terror activity as war. That's why Operation Sindoor is only paused, suspended, not stopped. The Operation Sindoor is an ongoing phenomenon against terrorism. Whenever terrorism happens against our nation, then we would consider it is an act of war and will react in a proactive manner. Reacting in a proactive manner, you can imagine. That's what we would do. So these kind of things took place and discussions. Then the invitation of President Trump stands, and my Prime Minister would go at his convenience and their convenience. This kind of things. They're both working people at very high levels. They have that of time, and also meetings should be meaningful. There should be something to discuss, and some fruitful results should come. Anyway, this is a very normal incident. We should not take it as serious. President Trump's getting upset with something in the G7 and leaving and suddenly making a phone call because he forgot to talk to him, and then inviting him, come over, have a cup of tea and good, and that kind of thing. Good. And as our Prime Minister, my Prime Minister, reacted in a most normal way, most sensible way. I shall come to you, but then not right now. My schedule is tight. I shall have other places to do, work to do. I have to go to get back, etc. So, but instead of that, you also find time to come to Bharat. All those things was done. This is how diplomacy works, and this is how diplomacy ought to work. We shall be taking with some other thought. Namaste, Jai Bharat, Jai Siya Ram.